How is it going, my guys? It's been a hot minute, but I'll tell you what's even hotter. Trains going at very high speeds to some people. And Brad Pitt. I should have led with the Brad Pitt one. I think we can all agree here, what a hunk. Unless, of course, your name's Shania Twain. In which case, I know you made it very public that he wasn't your cup of tea. But, like, we're all impressed by Brad. You're the odd one out, Shania. I don't know why this intro's just become a targeted attack on Shania Twain. Shania Train. Bullet Train is a new film from David Leitch, who's a director behind films like Deadpool 2, Atomic Blonde, some other ones I don't think I've seen. I've sort of been quite indifferent to him as a director. I enjoyed those films, I guess, but they didn't really blow me away. Atomic Blonde was probably the better of those, and I mean, it did have some kick-ass action, and I do love Charlize Theron. But this one is an adaptation of a, I believe, graphic novel, comic of the same name. Someone correct me there if I'm wrong. And essentially this one is about a bunch of different assassins on a bullet train, which is of course going very, very fast, all with a very similar objective, just kind of bumping into each other along the way. Don't know why I said that like it's just a, oh, sorry, in the corridor. No, they're trying to kill each other, led by Brad Pitt, which sounds like a recipe for good stuff. Inject me. I'm here for it. I'm here for a good old time on a long old speedy train. But ultimately, it isn't really very good. A lot of my problems with this film are sort of things which should work about it and almost do, but don't, if that makes much sense. And the first of those for me is just the volume of shit that's going on in this film, right? From a directing standpoint, in terms of the ideas, the visual stuff that's going on, and the writing, the jokes, and everything in here is just a mile a minute. Or should I say 200 to 275 miles per hour. I did just look up how fast a bullet train is for that joke. Will it land? Only time will tell. And usually, and this isn't entirely not the case here, but when a film is doing that and it's just cramming so much in, even if it's not all working for me, it can at least help to make it an entertaining time. And I will say that this is at least an engaging watch. Like, I wasn't bored watching it. Boredom is not one of my top problems with this film. It's the opposite of that. But it is just kind of relentless in a way which ultimately felt kind of ineffective to me. It gets to that point where I just start to gloss over all the shit that's going on, the stuff that I should be finding wild and wacky and zany and fun. It's just a lot, and because of that, I think it feels quite lazy in the way the story's told and the way everything's delivered, from the comedy to the action. I'm not sure that it's got enough ideas to really maintain that, so it just ends up feeling like the same joke or the same action set piece over and over again for about 2 hours. Oh, okay, we're an hour in and we've just been watching basically the same thing happen, just to different groups of people. And eventually they're all gonna collide and meet together. And I guess that's what this film's aiming for in its intrigue and in its sort of momentum. But ironically, for a film that's set on a bullet train, I gotta be honest, it sort of loses momentum quite quickly. And that's felt most for me in the comedy. Listen, this is going to be a very subjective thing, as it always is, but for my money, the comedy in this film absolutely didn't work. I mean, I think I can count on my hand the amount of times I actually laughed at this thing. And it is certainly trying to make you laugh. But honestly, this film has about 5 jokes, and it just rinses and repeats them for 2 hours. British character shouts in Cockney, but fucking bastard a lot of the time. 1. Number 2, American guy pretending to be British likes Thomas the Tank Engine. There you go. Number 3, something interrupts a situation, which is bad timing. Whoa, isn't that funny? Brad Pitt's been to therapy, so occasionally he'll butt into the action with some kind of inspirational thing he's learned to keep his mind at peace. 4, someone makes a joke about code names. 5, those are the 5 jokes this film has. Comedically, this film is like watching a pyromaniac with a wet matchbox just striking it for 2 hours, trying to make a spark. And occasionally it's gonna light, because that's just, you know, how friction works. But my guy, put the matchbox down and get a fucking lighter. And it was particularly less funny whenever Brad Pitt wasn't on screen, which is incredibly telling of where a lot of this film's primary talent comes from. It's Brad Pitt. And listen, he's really fun in this film. He's definitely the standout point for me, and I have to say, if it wasn't for Brad Pitt in this film, I definitely would have had a much less enjoyable time, because the dude is just having fun, and that translates through the screen. It always does. I love watching actors that are clearly enjoying themselves in the role. And I don't mean to suggest that other people in this film aren't enjoying themselves, but maybe it's just the lines that they're given versus the lines that he's given, or maybe it is just the fact that it's Brad Pitt and they're not Brad Pitt. But his stuff mostly felt the least kind of smug and obnoxious. I did enjoy some of the other performances in the film, but then there are people that really just, every time they're on screen, I wasn't liking it. It wasn't good. Joey King, get her out of the film. Not good. Michael Shannon, listen, you realize how much you fucked up to get me to sit here and say that Michael Shannon was a weak link in your film? Jesus Christ. Brian Tyree Henry, like the guy usually. I could not get on board with him in here. And things like that are most frustrating because for this film to really work, it needs to rely on a cast that is not dropping the ball. If everyone in this film was delivering to the level of Brad Pitt, I would have really enjoyed this thing, I think. So I genuinely do think that your enjoyment of this film as an audience member is going to come down to a lot of things, but will primarily come down to how you respond to the cast. I think it's one of those films. If you're not on board with anyone, things just start to fall apart. I did enjoy the action in the film. It's something that is injected through the film and weaves in and out of around the comedy and the plot. And I will say that's something that David Leitch has always been good at, and that is delivering decent action sequences which sort of tell a fun story in themselves, which is always the number one thing you want from a good action sequence. But even those start to feel a little bit samey. There's kind of only so many ways we can watch the same fight sequences between just two different interchangeable characters in a different carriage on a bullet train. Brad Pitt's fighting someone in the kitchen train and he doesn't know why they're attacking him, so that's funny. Brad Pitt's fighting someone down in first class train and they don't know why they're fighting each other. That's pretty funny, my guy. Brad Pitt's fighting someone outside the toilet. See what I'm saying? It is that, really, for the whole film. And it culminates in the third act, which is really frustrating because just as it starts to kind of find its footing in just willingly going with batshit stuff, it then begins to feel like it needs to wrap up a story and weave in all these bits, which I just didn't really care too much about. So you get a final act that's basically of two halves. One half is a not particularly effective character wrap-up, narrative wrap-up, and the other half is admittedly very fun action sequences. Those two things don't quite mesh as well as I would like them to mesh, but again, are at least carried by a very charismatic Brad Pitt who just seems to be like gaining charisma through the entire runtime. So the long and short of it is that this wasn't a very good film, but it at least has Brad Pitt. But it is in cinemas now, so whatever you thought about it, let me know in the comments below, and we'll have a little chat. And please do validate me for the Shania Train pun I made earlier in the video. That would mean a lot. But if you like this video and you do want to see me talk about more shit, go ahead and click subscribe. Button's down there. There are also links to my socials and my letterbox. So do with that what you want to do with that. I'll see you guys very soon for some more thoughts on some big films that I've been very excited to check out and have finally seen. But until next time, Brad, ignore Shania. All right? Background noise. I'm impressed. I'm impressed.